Before we get into today's video, I would like to thank all of my lovely channel members, and especially my lovely darling stewards. Bella Mare, Husky HD, Hopeful, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanni Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Melofia, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Thank you for your support, and also a huge thank you for all of my darling mates for your continued support. Now I hope you enjoy the video, and please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you. Among the many dangers of hell, there was one that even overlords are forced to respect. Exterminations. A time where angels descended from the heavens to mindlessly slaughter. And while sure, hell usually put the laughter into slaughter, this wasn't funny at all. You had been caught up with a certain bodily function of your demon self, and were unable to secure one of the famed red tickets that allowed entry into one of the many anti-angel bunkers set up by Camilla Carmine in cooperation with the V Corporation. They were buildings made out of remolded angel steel, and try as they might, the angels could not break their shell. They just could not get in. So they simply hunted whoever was outside, which sadly included you now. You are dressed in blue shorts and a red buttoned-up shirt that was a little tight around your chest. The clock had struck the hour 0 not that long ago. It was the first time you experienced the carnage firsthand without a red ticket and a safe bunker. But as you are running for your life, you soon realize that not only did you just stumble into a part of the pentagram you never entered before, but also that the sky was filled with the sounds of flapping wings. You were actually getting closer to them rather than getting further away. The screams of the damned dying around you, it was making you go crazy. Finding safety was difficult as well, made worse by the recent addition of the Paladins. They were non-heaven-born angels. Used to be regular people who got into heaven, and as such, used human tactics, human thought, human logic. They checked garbage containers, for crying out loud. Garbage containers! They used to be heaven for all the homeless during exterminations. Sometimes even checked under cars. They entered the sewers. Well, nowhere near as scary as an actual exterminator angel due to their goofy heavy armors, making it easy for you to run from them. Their tactical abilities were much more efficient than the angels mindlessly just slaughtering. If anything, it seemed more like this was a vacation for the angels while it was a job for the paladins. But amidst the chaos, you suddenly bumped into something. Someone. The collision was hard enough to knock you to the ground. It felt as if you had run face first into a stone pillar. But as you regained your composure, you were actually met by the image of an imp. Your butt firmly planted on the ground, you stared up at him in disbelief, as he slowly turned around. His lower jaw appeared crooked, as if he badly healed from a broken mandible. His eyes were entirely yellow, with the only indication of where he might be looking at was a slight discolored glow. His entire suit was dapper, clean, and definitely more expensive than anything you ever owned, and white silk gloves decorated his hands. A yellow handkerchief was neatly poking out of his breast pocket. His horns were short, and similar to your own, clearly had been shaven off. In fact, it made you reach for your own stumps on your head, suddenly feeling self-conscious about it. His hair was short and white.
"Exalted one,"
he mumbled.
so Soul who ran from her responsibilities and problems to the point of heresy. The entrance into hell guaranteed by the inability to accept accountability. Common, weak, barely worth the effort of talking to, the imp thought. His crooked mouth made his speech difficult to understand, but not impossible. "I'm so sorry, sir," he said, standing up. A sudden explosion behind you, bringing you back to the reality you were facing. No, madam, I apologize. I have clearly underestimated the chaos of the situation.
He raised a hand in apology. You had run into him. Why was he being the one sorry?
I am merely on a small errand for my master and did not intend to interfere with the half-police around us.
Now that you thought about it, with how clean he looked, it seemed as if there was a bubble of normalcy around him. The carnage unable to physically reach him. He then tilted his head, curiously.
I assume they are the run from our heavenly invaders, yes?
You nodded.
And how come, little gazelle?
Well, it just happened. You stopped mid-sentence, sighing, and then forcing a smile. No, it was all on me. Surprised, he embraced an eyebrow. See, I'm in heat. Curious. So that was the sweet aroma he had picked up the moment you bumped into him. I spent so much time trying to have my urges fulfilled. I kept saying I'll do it tomorrow, get one of those tickets, but no. This was much more important, and I screwed up. The imp sighed almost unnoticeably, though you could tell that somehow your admission of fault was deeply annoying him.
Well,
The imp was interrupted by a loud flap of wings. "Step aside, filth! I must exorcise that creature!" An angel had landed right behind the imp. Her weapon was raised. You took a step back, afraid, giving the imp a pleading look. You were ready to run at any second.
excuse me,
He said, turning around.
I was having a conversation.
He looked the angel dead in the eyes. She tilted her head, expression turning into utter disbelief. "Listen here, you little shit! I can touch you! I'm willing to accept that, but at least get out of the..." The imp snapped his fingers, causing her to immediately blink away. Perplexed, you stared past the imp to where the angel had stood. No, you didn't blink yourself. You were too scared to. They just teleported away. With no noise. Zero fanfare. Usually it was like the sound of an explosion or like some fire, but how? The imp then turned back to face you. "What the fuck?" You shouted in disbelief.
Do not worry, I did not break any contracts. I merely teleported her away so we could continue speaking. What a bother.
"What?" He raised a hand to silence you.
Don't worry, she won't bother us. She's quite busy now.
Why? With what? You're afraid to ask.
I simply teleported her to the shelter of Cannibal Town. I despised cannibalism. As such, the fear of that filth I hear breathing my air and the air of my master, the better.
You fell to your knees. How was he doing that?
Regardless of that,
He was now removing the glove of his left hand, revealing black fingernails and palms that had a yellow, discolored hue to them compared to his regularly red skin. He then offered you his right while raising his left.
my dear gazelle, if you wish to continue your existence, take my hand.
Gulping, you placed yours on his.
My service doesn't come free, however.
You opened your mouth, causing him to grimace, and so he kept quiet.
I do not have any use for your soul. For this service, I simply wish for you to entertain my master. He has been dying for female attention for the last 7 years. But a man of his caliber, of course, cannot be swayed by a mere fling or one-night stand.
Is he in heat too?
I don't dare to make any assumptions, but to push the conversation forward and into the correct direction, let's say something like that.
So, a horny guy who is lonely. Got it, you thought. Fine, I'll screw with whoever you want, just save me, okay? The imp immediately snapped his ungloved hand. And just like before, from one split second to the next, with no sounds, no indication, not even teleportation sickness, you were at a different place. Was this how fast travel felt to a video game with no loading times? You found yourself in a lavishly decorated hall, a red carpet leading to an empty throne. But there wasn't enough time to gawk, as the imp immediately began dragging you. Oh, hey! He had quite the grip.
By the way, my name is Preminger.
Like the Barbie villain? He blinked. What? Nothing. I'm Stacy. Quill. My name is Quill. You are dragged through the hallways of what turned out to be more than just a mere manor. It was a straight-up castle. And eventually you stopped in front of a door. Preminger stood up straight, and so did you, preparing yourself mentally.
3, 2, 1.
The door was kicked open by someone. "Prim!" shouted the person behind, only for him to immediately say, "Oh, there you are. Thought you were still running my errand." Past the door stepped a guy dressed in all white with snake imagery on his hat. Snake imagery on his head? Hang on. Pompous castle, a butler that was capable of things beyond those of regular imps, probably some cosmic entity. Did you just bring me to Satan himself?
It's Lucifer.
You blushed. Well, if by Satan you mean your king, you're right. Lucifer then leaned forward to Premenger's ear. Who is this creature? You gulped. The fact he wanted to make it seem like you weren't supposed to hear that made you uncomfortable.
This is Miss Quill, sire. I picked her up for my errand. For now, she will be confined to the castle due to the ongoing extermination.
Lucifer blinked. And why? Preminger looked you up and down and then whispered so quiet that you couldn't hear it.
I believe your lovely daughter, Miss Charlie, would be excited to know you're actively trying to find souls worthy of saving. It is of my belief that this one might be a good fit.
This immediately caused Lucifer to jump up with a gleeful expression. Clapping his hands, he shouted, "All right then!" Lucifer placed a hand on your back gently. "I just had a brilliant idea." You gulped. "Since you'll be staying for a day or two, I shall put it on myself to learn all about the person you are. And if I find you proper, I shall deliver you to my daughter. This will be fun." Preminger clapped his hands slowly.
Wonderfully original idea, sire. You're so smart and kind.
"Of course it is, Prim. Could you prepare her room, all right?" Lucifer ordered with the biggest of smiles. With his hand on your back, Lucifer began pushing you through the hallways that you had just entered with Prim. Truthfully, he didn't care about you at the slightest, but the chance for Charlie to praise him, that was pushing him forward. "So, how about some small talk? What have you been up to down here, I mean?" You were sitting with him in a sort of gallery. Or library. Study, perhaps. It was large. Bookshelves were lining up in rows as well as the walls, up to the ceiling. The floor was tiled and very well polished. Strangely enough, however, you haven't seen any other servants yet, aside from Preminger. Did that mean that the imp took care of the entire castle and still had time to run errands for Lucifer? I mean... You look to the side. I suppose skipping the early days in hell is a good starting point. Just a regular confusion, some torture, some getting used to my new body. Besides, it's all really like a blur anyways. Plus, you had been too high. Most of the time. Back then. Just to test out your immortal body, of course. I'm a courier. I take goods from HQ and deliver them, though I mostly stick to 1/4 of the pentagram due to convenience. Since I'm a gazelle demon, I'm quite quick on my feet. Your body was lean, and you naturally had muscular legs. Your ears were covered in brownish fur and pointy. You didn't know how, but they automatically seemed to adjust like antennae to wherever you sense danger. At the top of your head, normally, you had 2 thick black horns growing, but they made sleeping quite cumbersome. So every Monday you shaved them down so far that your hair could cover the bumps. Your eyes were brown, with really big pupils, and you had a tail coming out of your butt. It wasn't long, just barely reaching the top of the back of your knees, with a black brush at its tip. It's a good job, I suppose. Don't get me wrong. Due to the nature of it, I mostly get left alone by gangs, as couriers are important. Even in hell, they respect the motto of "don't shoot the messenger," after all. Oh, didn't expect that. Lucifer leaned back. Preminger had a good eye when it came to souls of mortals. You were far less annoying than the usual riffraff. "And what did you do in life?" "That's what I'm the most curious about, actually." You blushed, causing him to hum with concern. I wasted my life. I did nothing." "Nothing? Elaborate." I was a professional homeowner. My family owned a few buildings in a suburb, but I didn't want to take responsibility. I sold them all for money. Uncomfortably, you crossed your arms. "I was foolish. thinking I could live my entire life living with just the 500k that I got from selling them. Though it still lasted me 10 years, I suppose. I decided to spend the rest on one big splurge, and with your hands you motion downwards. The goal was to end up in the coffin before I ran out of money. Just out of curiosity, would you say you died happy? You deadpanned. I gave myself the golden shot. I was desperate, but the drugs made me feel happy, so kind of redundant of a question, isn't it? So you weren't. You sunk your head. I wasn't. It was a downward spiral the moment I finished school, actually. Shit I endured with my parents, sucking up to them for 25 years to get the houses. And then I fucking sell them. You deadpanned. If you could have taken just a tiny bit of responsibility and work into these buildings, the run money from the tenants alone would have secured an okay life. Conventionally speaking, you never would have needed a job. Just sometimes do paperwork and finances. Heck, you could even hire someone for that, but no, you didn't. And by the time you realized that you could have done that, you already had started your final blowout party. A final moment of clarities. Before your last needle pricked your skin. At least your hell self looked kinda cute. In fact, the cup size. At least your hell self looked kinda cute. Or hot. Your cup size had doubled. That was nice. Though, the moment you thought about your body, you realized you were still feeling hot and bothered. And you're dreading standing up, as you'd certainly leave behind a wet stain on the sofa. Lucifer, who had listened to your story, finally moved. But to your dismay, it was unrelated to your life story. You were hoping you would comment on it or something. Wait, does it smell like old sugar water here? Your eyes wide in horror. I thought I told Prim to switch to lemon-flavored polish. No, it's not. Oh god. You squeaked, realizing mid-sentence that you were speaking out loud. What now? You sighed. You could lie to the King of Hell. The reason I'm not right now in a comfy bunker is because I had been too busy with something. You shoved uncomfortably. Tell me. I'm rutting. He blinked, and then shouted, Oh, you're horny! He took off his hat for a moment to swipe his hair back. He was clearly taken aback. Stuck in a rut, can't help but wanna fuck, huh? Why did he have to make it awkward? Well, nonchalantly he began unbuttoning his beautiful coat. Might as well get this over with, huh? You squealed, slapping both hands on your face. How was he so confident? Oh yeah, King of Hell. First man to steal a guy's girl. Oh god, first man to steal a guy's girl. He now dropped his coat on the floor, smirking. Do you want to help take this belt off? It's quite thick and hard. You gulped, a line of Zavia running down your quivering lips. Yes? Shaking, you huddled over to him, leaning down before him. Shaking hands, undoing His belt, he wasn't lying, the thing was quite thick. When your fingers took hold of his pants button after finally removing them, he placed 2 fingers under your chin. Your eyes widened lustfully, and he smirked, kissing you on the mouth after leaning forward. A thick, long tongue pushed past your lips. It was sleek and deliciously sweet. It swirled around your mouth gently, exploring your wet, tasty flesh before finally pulling away. Spreading his legs as far as the sofa chair allowed, he licked his lips and hushed. Go ahead.